everybody. It is Thursday, April 14th, 2016. Tomorrow is bee day. Tomorrow I get my bees. I figured what I'd do is I'd do up a bit of a video just explaining the basic parts of a beehive and what I'm doing. The only reason I want to do that is because I cannot tell you guys how many people have been asking me questions, and I have gone through this run through probably about half a dozen times or more, explaining the basics of bees, the parts of the beehive, and kind of what's going on. So I just thought I'd go through that today, and maybe we'll have another video tomorrow of me when I actually get the bees. I know I'm going to have a lot of questions about that as well. So this is the beehive. It's basically made of pine, and it consists of a lot of different levels. I guess the first thing that I'll explain is that these are Italian honeybees that I'm getting. They're imported from New Zealand by a local company, and I managed to get my hands on one of their bee packages, as they call it. Like I said, they're Italian honeybees. Italian honeybees are supposedly a little more docile, not as aggressive as a lot of other bees, and so those are the reasons why they're being brought in. The package consists of about 1 kilogram of bees, which I understand is around 9,000, give or take. The hive will grow to maybe 50,000. My numbers might not be completely accurate, and I apologize if I'm a little off. I was reading the Beekeeping for Dummies book, so that is the source of all of my information, and I'm sure that there's a beekeeper or two out there who could certainly dispute some of my numbers, but we won't audit that at any rate. So, like I said, there's about 9,000 bees. In with that is a single queen bee. There are worker bees. The worker bees are female, and there are the drones. The drones are the males. The drones have one purpose and one purpose only. That is to mate with the queen. The queen has really a couple of purposes. Number one, she lays eggs. She creates all of the other bees. And number two, she ensures that there's a certain amount of order within the hive. So her every need is taken care of, from being fed to she goes to the bathroom wherever she goes, and the bees clean up after her. So the hive, this is the hive. You can see it consists of multiple levels. When I get the bees, this will not be fully assembled like this. There are the lower two boxes. These are commonly referred to as the brood chambers. These are the honey supers. This is a hive top feeder. This is the lid. And then there's the base or the bottom board. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it apart and explain exactly how this will come together. This is the inner hive cover. This will be on all the time as well. So you can see this is just the base that it sits on. This will be sitting on some cinder blocks, probably about 1.5 to 2 feet off the ground. It just makes sure that the hive drains if any water happens to get on the bottom part or anything like that. Keeps it off the ground, the moisture, so the moisture doesn't get in. I guess it helps to kind of keep predators or uninvited guests out of the hive. Sitting on top of the hive, or on top of the bottom board, will be the one of the brood chambers. So inside of all of these boxes are the frames and foundation. Basically, and it's tough to see because they are white, this is the frame around the outside and the foundation is in the middle. I have bought a single frame foundation combination. They're made of plastic and they actually have a thin film of beeswax. These things actually smell quite nice right now. They do smell like honey. So what the bees will do, actually I'll start, when I get the bees tomorrow, they will come in a little box and they will have been traveling for 3 or 4 days, and they will come from New Zealand, as I said, so it's a bit of a hike for them. So I'll get the bees. Hopefully it's a little bit cool and cloudy tomorrow. You do not want to be hiving bees when it's nice and warm and sunny. I guess they will like to fly and move around, and they'll be a little more excited if it is nice. So hopefully it's a bit cooler, but if it's not, I'll just wait to the evening until it gets a little bit darker and cooler to put them in. So they will come in a box. I expect it to be around the size of a shoebox. We'll actually see tomorrow. What I'll do is I'll spray it down with some sugar water to weigh them down, weigh their wings down so that they don't fly away. And I will take the box and I will dump the bees right in here. You can see I pulled out a few of the frames. I will dump them in there, and these frames don't have drawn honeycomb on them. So as you know, bees make beeswax, they make bees, honey. They will actually draw out from this frame. You can see the little shape of honeycomb. Well, you probably can't, but you can see how there's little honeycomb shapes there. That gives it a foundation. Just like your house has a foundation, this has a foundation, and they will start building out beeswax from there. To give them a bit of a head start, I'm going to buy some frame foundations that already have beeswax on it. That will allow the queen to get started right away in what she needs to do. The first thing she needs to do, like I said, because there's only about 9,000 bees and you need a full colony, she's going to mate and she's going to start laying eggs. At her peak, I understand that she'll lay around 1,500 eggs a day, so she'll be pretty busy, and the worker bees will be looking after her. So like I said, getting that honeycomb out there will allow her to get to work right away doing what she does best. I'll hive them, I'll wet them down with sugar, water their wings, I'll dump them in the hive. I will take the lid and the roof, I will put it back on, and I will leave them. I guess I'm supposed to leave them for about a week before I check them. The reason being, you don't want to disturb them, and a week later I'll check and I'll make sure that the queen has actually been doing what she should be doing. So what I'll do is I'll check the frames and foundation to make sure that she's been laying eggs, and you'll see the eggs. They're like a tiny little grain of rice, and hopefully she'll start building out the colony. So once that happens, she'll, like I said, she'll be doing a lot of egg laying, and eventually this brood chamber, the bottom section, will get filled up. And when it's almost full, there's actually 10 of these in each level. When she has laid eggs and it's been built out with honeycomb, probably to the 7th frame or so, I will take the second, actually sorry, I missed something before I do that. Before I cover it up after I hive them, I'm also going to put the feeder on. So this is a hive top feeder. What you do is you fill it up with sugar water, 2 parts sugar, 1 part water. Some beekeepers also medicate their bees. I'm not really planning on doing that right away. I'm going to see how things go. But you put your sugar water on there, and you can see underneath there's a bit of a gap. What the bees can do is come up that gap, go onto this little screen, go down, eat some sugar water, drink some sugar water, and go back down there. You have to feed them early on in the year because the nectar flow hasn't really started. There's not many flowers this time of year. It is early April. So you have to give them, definitely feed them. So I will have that on. I'll put the cover back on, the lid back on. Won't look at them for a week. After a week I'll check to make sure that she's been laying her eggs and doing her thing. And if she has, great. If she hasn't, the queen probably would need to be replaced. Hopefully that doesn't happen. That would not be a good thing. The other thing I have to do is put this reducer on the front. You can see there's little gaps on it. What this makes sure, this allows make sure the bees can defend the hive. When there's only a small number of bees, of course there's a limited number that can actually defend the hive from intruders. So you can adjust the spacing. As the hive grows, I can increase the amount of space so that more bees can get in and out. And as there's more bees, they can defend it more easily. So, like I said before, I'll continue to feed them. Once this is built out, I'll definitely not have to feed them once the main nectar flow starts, but once this is built out and almost filled, then I'll put the other brood chamber on, and it's exactly the same as the one that's already on there. So they'll continue to do the same thing below as what they were doing before. I'm not sure how long this will take, probably, I don't know, I'm going to say a good month and a half or so. I'll continue to check periodically to make sure everything's okay and that they're doing what they should be doing, but hopefully it all goes well. So when this is almost full, this part's I've read, this part is commonly referred to as the bee pantry. So this is where they tend to store a lot of their own food, or honey, as I should say. Once this is full, that's when I'll put this little thing on. It's basically a screen, and what it is it's wide enough, or the gaps in it are large enough to allow worker bees to pass through the screen, but not the queen. And the reason you want worker bees only to be able to pass through there and not the queen is because this is known as the honey super. This is my honey. This is where my honey will be. And you definitely don't want the queen going up there and laying eggs in it and doing all that stuff. So I'll put that on there. The bees don't know any different that the honey that they're going to be putting in there is for me and not them. So they'll just continue to fill it up. I won't expect as much honey in the first year just because they've already had to build the colony up. They've had to build out the honeycomb. Like I said, this is exactly the same as the others. It's just smaller, and there's no honeycomb on it yet. It's just the foundation, so they've got a lot of work to do there. I don't know if I'll require the other honey super this year, but hopefully next year I'll need it. I'll put that back on after the lower one is filled up. And like I said, the lid will go back on. In late August, probably, when the nectar flow is stopped, in other words, when the flowers are pretty much gone, that's when the time comes for me to harvest the honey in these two parts. So I will take them off, and I will go. Basically, like I said, the honeycomb will be built out. I'll cut the caps off because they do cap it with beeswax, and I will harvest the honey. You put it in there's a machine that basically spins this in circles, and it centrifugal force will force out the honey.